ethnicity inclusion, and we're back.
Yeah. So
yes, gender inclusion, ethnicity inclusion, cultural inclusion. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll edit this.
No, you should totally leave that in. This is welcome back to a punk rock interview. Sorry. I'm gonna make him spit up on the books.
So now in Mage 20 there, I mean, Mage has always had a lot of, at least maybe from my perspective, I don't know if it was intentional or grew, or I just saw what I needed or wanted to see, but I always felt like out of all of the World of Darkness games, I always felt that Mage had so much more social commentary than well, any game ever.
Werewolf and Vampire had a lot of social commentary too, and it was Andrew Greenberg inaugurated the gaming as social commentary thing with Vampire. You know, the first couple of Vampire books are kind of, you know, Vampire onks, stonks, but with Chicago by Night, Andrew Greenberg introduced politics and social commentary, and from there you got Anarch's Cookbook, you've got the Malkavian and Bruja books, you've got all the riffing on politics in there. Andrew and Dan Greenberg and Mark, to be fair, opened the door on social commentary and role playing. Rob Hatch and Mark Reinhagen and Sam Chupp busted through it, and then Bill kept going with Werewolf, which, I mean, there's a hell of a lot of social commentary in Werewolf. And then, you know, with Mage, I just said, oh look, doors open. Here, boom, there's a fucking soapbox. Rock and roll, you know. And yeah, I've been involved in politics since I was in high school, and when I realized that I had, and this is one of the great things, and I want to make sure this is part of the record too, with very, very few exceptions, White Wolf and the folks at White Wolf gave me total creative freedom. So for 5 years, with the exception of Luma Fate and the Samuel Haight book, Chaos Factor, nobody ever told me what I could or couldn't do on Mage. When Ken Cliff handed me the first copy of Mage, he said, it's all yours, we don't have the slightest idea what to do with it. And I said, what can I do with it? He said, as long as you don't make any major changes right off the bat, you can do whatever you want. And for 5 years, me and my crew, that's what we did. And one of the things I wanted to do was make not only a lot of social and political commentary, but to inspire people and sometimes to incite people. Because it's part of it's my own social political beliefs, part of it's my spiritual beliefs, and part of it is just simply because, goddamn it, people need to wake the fuck up. And I always felt like that's a major message in Mage and Deliria, was wake the fuck up. Play the game, great, read the game, enjoy it, hang out with your friends, but then get up from the game table and fucking do something. Because God knows the world needs it. My partner, Sandy Musker, has this great phrase, this great saying, which I put into Mage 20, which is, magic is the fine art of getting off your ass and doing something. I always felt that way, but she put it into words. I'm like, fuck yes, that. And so that's, I have always wanted to throw lots of not only social, political, spiritual, metaphysical commentary, but I wanted to get people, and Mage has always, and will, as long as I'm doing it, will continue to be all about questioning the reality that appears to be given to you. One of the things that some people have questioned over the years is, well, why does this book disagree with this book, disagree with this book? I'm like, we fucking did that on purpose. In Mage 20th, I give it the name, the Rashomon effect. Rashomon, for those people who haven't heard of it, is a masterpiece by Akira Kurosawa. It was adapted from a stage play written just after World War II, which is about the tentative and fragmented and speculative nature of truth. You've got a crime has been committed. The court is trying to figure out who did what to whom. They ask the person who committed the crime, one of the people who was involved in the crime, the ghost of the guy who was killed in the crime, and an eyewitness, and all have totally different stories. And one of the guys in the end, what is truth? And that's, I felt that Mage was is still the perfect vehicle for that. because truth is as different as truth is as different as every living thing. We all perceive the world. We all perceive our world through the lens of our own experiences, through our memories, through our processing, through our perspective, through our culture, through a million different lenses that start with electromagnetic impulses traveling through and being processed up here. Everybody's reality is slightly different. The idea of there being a one true reality is bullshit. It is provably untrue. And that's I wanted to use, and I still am using Mage to point that out to people and go, reality is yours to mold. You may not be able to make cars fly, you may not be able to overthrow the government here or there, you may not be able to take down the code covers of God, I wish we could. But you are not a prisoner of your reality. And that to me is a very powerful message. And a really necessary one, especially now.
Since we don't have a lot of time, we should definitely, I mentioned there was there was a pause and a step away from gaming, and then there was a return that a lot of, I'm usually shocked actually when people are, aren't familiar with Deliria, and mostly it's a matter of, well, your life is incomplete, and now here, sit down and read this.
There was a reason for that, and I'll be glad to go on the record with this. The distributors fucked us on Deliria. That's why. When we came out the bat, because when I first left White Wolf, I was like, okay, I want to get out of gaming, and I tried working on some novels, and that wasn't working. I did a little magazine writing work. I published a few more short stories. I'd actually started as a magazine and newspaper writer, short story writer, before I worked with White Wolf. But White Wolf became the gig for 6 years. After that, I wanted to return to that, but I hit a wall. I had to reteach myself how to write. It was about a year and a half where I was writing. It was all shit. And then I came up with the idea for Deliria. My now former partners, Kevin DeVico and Matt Wood, came to me with the idea of a gaming company. And I was like, okay. And I pitched them Deliria, and they were like, yes, let's do it. So we did. And although the game system needs work, and yes, I am actually revising the game system for Deliria. The game system is flawed, but Deliria on a lot of levels, we were very happy with it. And when we appeared at DragonCon 2003 with cases of it, with no publicity other than this March of the Fairies through the convention hall, we sold over 300 copies off the table and out of the box. We outsold pretty much everything else at every other game, including White Wolf at that convention. And we waited for the distributors. We went to the distributors and we said, hey, Phil Brucato from Mage worked on this thing. And they were like, it's not D20, nobody wants it. I was like, maybe you should talk to the fans about that. And one guy says, we've looked it over and it doesn't have enough big tits and big guns to satisfy the 14-year-old boys who drive this market. We'll pass. Yeah, I want to find, I don't remember his name, but I want to find him and crack him upside the skull with a copy of this book for that remark. So what we did after that, we sold a bunch of copies and then bang, we were out. Nobody would carry us because we weren't carried by a distributor. There was one small distributor, Greenfield, which is long gone now, which carried us. But we went from selling like 350, 360 copies in 3 days to selling maybe a dozen copies in 4 months. Because at that point we also didn't have a website, it was 2003. And so we girded our loins and we gathered our money and we took time off from work and we hit every convention we could hit in 2004. I personally went to 17 conventions in 2004. And I call this the Great Con Crawl of 2004. And we dragged ass through every convention. We sold copies of Deliria, and at several conventions we sold out of it. And we moved at least 1,000, probably more than 1,000 copies in those few months. And at the end of 2004, after Dragon Con, they came to us, and one of the guys, I think this was the guy from Alliance, said, "We just wanted to see whether you would last long enough to be more part-time." Yeah, wow. Wow. By that time, we had exhausted most of our patience, a lot of our money, and we were really tired. And I dropped out of the company about a year later, not even a year later, the next year, just because of a combination of road fatigue and personal difficulties. And I had to declare bankruptcy personally. So thank you, distributors, for fucking us on Deliria. I appreciate it. That's why I don't deal with you anymore.
If you do happen to find a copy of this book,
it's on Amazon.
It is a gorgeous book. I'm just going to take a minute to flip through some of.
Thank you. You're awesome.
This. Realistically,
is it still going?
You know, for a book in the early 2000s, the production values and the artwork is just the sheer artistry of the artifact itself is fucking amazing. No, it really was. I mean, I haven't seen, you know, this kind of format in books. You didn't see this until really, I want to say 2010, 11. I want to say, really honestly, I'd like to say, I think Fantasy Flight, when they started doing the 40K role-playing games, were the first ones to really bring a high-end, full-color, hardback artwork to role-playing. Because otherwise it was like you had one full page at the start of each chapter, and then a quarter page in each chapter. That was your art.
Oh, and here's another thing I'd